What's up, everybody? Straw Hats Are Cool here, and we are finally back with another video. Had a great weekend attending the One Piece card game national championships. Didn't do super well, but had a fun time hanging out with friends and the community in general. We also did manage to pull a manga Luffy from 5 packs, which genuinely felt like a scene from a movie to me. It was crazy. So super happy about that. Had a great time, fun overall, despite the fact that I'm sure a lot of you who are there, or even those of you who weren't, heard the event itself was not run all that well, to say the least. Not going to get into the details on that, but still had a good time at the event. But I'm excited to be back home and ready to make some more content again. So as always, before we get into today's video, I just want to say thank you so much, as always, to everyone who has been supporting me in the channel. Been continuing to grow at a pretty steady rate, so really do appreciate everyone who's stopping by to support the channel. If you're interested, we do have a Discord now. Link for that will be down in the video description. We've been doing some giveaways over there and just have a good time talking about the game and market in general. Additionally, if you plan on buying any cards off of TCG Player, do consider using my affiliate link, which will also be down in the video description. But with that, let's go ahead and jump into the market watch. I suppose before we really dive in, I should also say that during the Bandai Card Fest, while I was there, Bandai themselves have promised that they will be reprinting previous sets for the One Piece card game, and I should bring that up before we get into the video, because as we go through, we'll notice that a lot of prices on things are dropping, which is good to see in my opinion, but I just don't want anyone jumping in and thinking like, man, everything's dropping, is the game dying or something. Nope, that is not the case, but Bandai has promised reprints for the previous sets. They didn't go into details on whether or not that is every set or just some of the more recent ones, but they have promised we're getting at least some reprints of previous sets. So very excited that we got that announcement. But now let's actually jump in and start talking about some of the specific cards. So for Manga Shanks, it's still rather high, but it is down a little bit from where it was at its highest. I think it peaked around $3,000, and now we're looking at about $2,600. Last sale was about 2 weeks ago now at $27,000. So no sales as the price is coming down. I think people are deciding to wait and see if the price gets any lower, which is what I would recommend doing as well. I don't think it's going to shoot back up again. It looks like most things are going to start climbing down a little bit, so maybe it'll get a little more reasonable again. Definitely not going to be, back down under $1,000 again, I don't think, but there's still a chance that it'll get a little lower than it is right now if this is a card you're looking to pick up. For Ace, kind of the same deal. We did have one sell several weeks ago at $1,500. And currently the cheapest listing is at about $1,600, but we haven't had sales in 2 to 3 weeks now on this one, so I would expect that over time this one will drop in price as well. For Soga King, I think this is about the same as it was last time we had a market watch, maybe a little bit lower, still climbing upwards steadily. Last sale was at $800, and that was about 2 weeks ago. So I expect this one will drop down a little bit as well, seeing as there's not really any sales happening for it in the last couple weeks. Did have a couple right in a row there, kind of mid-January, but those ones were even a little lower than it is right now. So I expect it will also continue to come down just a little bit more in price before we start seeing some more sales on this one. For Sabo, this is a lately played at $700 for near mint. From a verified seller, we're also about $700. So for sales on this one, we did have one sell today at $679.99, but before that, it's been about, well, not quite a week. since the last sale at 764. So again, prices are coming down a little bit. Curious to see where things decide to settle, but with the announcement of reprints, I'm sure there are some people who are panicking a little bit and deciding to sell. Personally, I'm just going to hold on to mine as they mean a lot to me, and also I would imagine as long as the game continues to be successful, that over time they will go back up in price again. Eustace Captain Kidd is coming down. We're under $1,000, just about $900 right now. We had a sale the other day at $900, so we're starting to have some sales again. I feel like there was a pretty dry period. We have about 2 weeks where we didn't have any sales, but now as things are starting to drop down in price, we are starting to see this card sell again. Curious to see if they get kind of back towards that $600 range. I feel like this is not one of the more sought after mangas. At least it's not for me. I don't know about everyone else, but I feel like this one has a lot of room to drop in price still, especially with 05 being the most recent set. I imagine we'll get at least a decent amount of reprints for it. I'm still very skeptical because Bandai historically has been very bad about reprints. They don't typically do them. So not a lot of background on how well they'll do with reprints, just because as far as I'm aware, they haven't really done reprints of whole sets before. So curious to see where things go from there. For Law, we're actually back at $1,000 now, which is great to see in my opinion. I think this one was, of the three, probably the most inflated, just because, I mean, I know it's Law and Law's a popular character, but I feel like in comparison to some of the other mangas like Law, is a little bit higher than it needed to be. I want to say this one, you know, got to almost 2,000. They weren't selling, but you can see now people may be more willing to buy again. So still haven't had any sales in a little while, but I'm excited to see where things go in the coming weeks. For Luffy of course being your big hitter, under $4,000 now, and we have not had any sales since about the second week of January. That one was about just under 5,000, so about $1,000 less than the current listing. And so the fact that this one isn't selling just goes to show that there was maybe a little bit of hype inflating the price and people starting to panic and buy these. So hopefully you were not one of those individuals, but still a very expensive card, not one that, you know, a lot of people have the money to shell out for just one small cardboard rectangle. But, you know, it's coming down. I'm curious to see how much lower it gets. I would imagine since it's not selling at this current price point, this listing has been the cheapest one for, I want to say, well over a week now. Gotta check the price when I pulled mine at Nats. So I would imagine that it will continue to drop down a little more so long as this continues not to sell. But you do got to keep in mind that these cards are never going to sell super quickly just because of how expensive they are. And lastly, we've got the Oda signature Monkey D. Luffy. It is under $2,000 now, right about $1,900. And they are selling at this price point. I think this is, I guess, fair for a card as rare as this is. Still a lot of money, not the kind of money I would probably ever spend. I mean, maybe I'd consider trading one of my SPR winner Luffy's for this, but not one I'd ever consider just outright buying. Does look great, but I'm more than content just with my, you know, regular variant of this card without the gold stamp. So that is it for our chase cards. As a whole, we've seen that the prices of these manga rares are starting to come down, likely just a result of the fact that we are confirmed to be getting reprints. Reprints to what degree, we're not sure yet, and we still don't know if it's even going to be for every set. I would hope so, but we'll just have to wait and see what comes of it later in the year. But that is it for our chase cards. Let's go ahead and jump into our main sets now, starting off with OP01 with our leaders. things are calming down a little bit here as well. Law still being right around, I mean, still not far under $500. This one has not dropped much. Zoro's back down to about 300, and everything else is pretty similar to what we've seen it at. Still all very expensive, but I think with what we're seeing with leaders is these cards are just inherently going to hold value. You got, what is it, 1 in every 3 boxes for your leaders. Yeah, 8 different leaders in the first 3 sets and then 6 in the following sets. So, you know, they are hard to get, but these OP01 ones still are the most expensive, even ones that are completely unplayable, like King at $80. The one I would keep your eye on would probably be Doflamingo. Just depending on what support it may end up getting in OP07 is still yet to be determined. We saw one card that I think works really well with this deck. There's a new 2K counter Law that's a 4 cost that I think would work really well with this deck. So we'll have to see what else comes in OP07, but if this deck kind of comes back and is relevant in the meta again, I could see it jumping up in price. I guess I could say the same thing about Kaido in OP08, as allegedly we are getting a new black-purple Animal Kingdom leader. So if there is purple Animal Kingdom support that somehow makes this guy relevant, we could see this one go up in price again as well. Regardless, once the time comes, they'll probably go up in price just because the hopium and people getting hyped for new sets usually kind of affects the prices of the leaders before the sets even come out, and then they drop down after people find out that the decks still aren't good. So that's it for our leaders. For your sealed product, the prices have dropped a little bit. I want to say last time we looked, they were right around 600, 580, 590, and now we're at 554. So they are starting to drop down in price. So if you've been holding on to your sealed product for OP01, could be the time to start selling some of it. But if you're feeling lucky, I guess you could also hold on to it, and then years from now I'm sure they'll also be holding value, just because One Piece is such a huge series. I'm sure there will always be some level of demand for it, but you know, I don't know a whole lot about the sealed product side of things, so you know, take what I say with a grain of salt. If I were holding a bunch, I'd probably say, well, I'll sell some of it and then hold on to some of it and see kind of what happens. Regardless, if you bought it, you know, early for $100 or so a box, I mean, you're making 5 times what you paid for it still, and I'd say that's pretty good. Next up is Ezo. Now, Ezo is an uncommon from OP01, and it is currently at $3.48. I would still argue this is one of the best 2K counters in the game, may even be the best 2K counter for green, but as green starts seeing more play going into OP06, and from what we can tell, still seeing play in the EB01 format. EB01 recently released in Asia. I think they've only had it for about 1 week, so we still don't have many results for decks, and we don't really know what's doing well over there right now. But it's seeming like green is doing quite a bit better than it has been for our current OP05 format, and with Ezo being one of the best 2K counters in the game, in decks like Yamato or even Perona, this card is going to be seeing a lot more play, so the price of this one has gone up quite a bit. So personally, if you're like me and you've been playing the game for quite a while, you may have quite a few of these just hanging around in your bulk. I would say now's a good time to go through your bulk, see how many of these you've got laying around, and unload them if you have any extras. Do keep in mind that there is also a tournament pack version of this card. It is sitting around the same $3, $4 price range, but it has much better art than this one, so I would definitely sell your OP01 ones if you have them, and then hold on to your tournament pack ones. They're about the same price, but they look a lot better. Or you could also, maybe you got a lot of those extra tournament pack ones too if you attended a lot of events like I did. So you could go through your collection of those as well and see if maybe you can make a little bit of money off of them. Next up, we've got X-Drake, and I do think I talked about this one maybe last Market Watch, but I do just want to bring it up again because we are getting closer to OP06. We are about 5 weeks away now from the release of OP06, if I'm not mistaken. And X-Drake is a card that sees considerably more play just because of the Perona leader. This card is very good alongside that leader, with Perona being able to just rest a 4-cost once per turn. It means that this effect is always viable. Like, even if your opponent leaves their 4-cost active, you can always just rest it with Perona, especially alongside the cost reduction that Black has. You can easily KO much bigger characters as well, as you can play your cost reduction before using your Perona's leader effect. For example, maybe playing a Ice Age to rest a 9-cost now, and that cost reduction still maintained so that when you play X-Drake, you're able to KO a 9-cost rested character, which is pretty crazy, especially for a well-statted character with counter. Next up is Otama. Now, Otama is actually the lowest I've seen it in a while, so if you're looking to play red and don't have your Otamas, now might be a good time to pick this one up. Still, again, like Izo, one of, if not the best 2K counters in the game. Definitely one of the best ones for red, to be sure. Red hasn't been seeing the level of success that it did see kind of in the first 3 or 4 sets, but it is still viable. There are still good red decks out there. Red Purple Law in particular, from what I can see in the EBO1 format, is looking like it might have some more legs than it has in the past, and this is a very good 2K counter for that deck. Next up is Eustace Captain Kidd. We've got both our regular SR and the alternate art here. They are down quite a bit from where they were. I think last time we looked, Eustace Kidd was about $24 for the regular. Not too sure on the alt. I want to say it was probably around $75 though, if I had to guess, if I'm remembering correctly. But they're both coming down, and these are ones, again, if you plan on playing green and you don't have this one in your collection, this could also be a good time to pick this one up, because like I said, green is starting to see more and more success, just given the results that I've been checking out from the format over in the Asian format. So they've already had OP06 for a while. They recently got EBO1. There are Yamato decks that are running this and seeing quite a bit of success. I'm seeing multiple variants, some very green focused ones, some that are more of just a green-yellow combo. And with the release of EBO1, the newly released film Uta Leader that we just got here in the West got some new support as well. They got another 2K counter, and they also got a cheap blocker. And I've been seeing some Uta list from the very early EBO1 results that have been doing pretty well. And this card is also a 4 of in those decks. So for the green Uta as well as the Yamato deck, this is a card that's looking like you're going to want to have moving forward. Card kind of fell off with the introduction of black, as a lot of its power faded away when you're just easily able to reduce the cost and remove it with an on-play effect. But as we're getting later in the game, this card is still coming back and showing that it is still a very powerful and threatening deck in the format. So if you don't have these and you're looking to play green, I would say probably consider picking these up now, but you could also keep your eye on it, see if it gets any lower. As we get closer towards those reprints, we'll just have to wait and see. Basically the same dealio as the alternate art. This one's quite a bit more expensive, but if you're looking to pick up an alternate art for your collection, it is coming down in price, so you might want to keep your eye on this one and pick one up if you need it for your collection. But that's it for OP01. Let's jump right into OP02, starting things off with our leaders. Overall, not a lot of change here. Most of our leaders, as we've been seeing, are right around $100 now. Everything here is really right around that $100 range, which I want to say is about where it has been, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Newgate still being your most expensive one, and Newgate still a viable leader in OP06. and it has been winning flagships in the EBO1 format as well. So Newgate just can't seem to put the old man down. While he's not seeing the level of success that he was seeing in the 03 and 04 formats, he is still seeing success, and it is a deck that you can still, get some wins with. On to sealed product. Again, the sealed product prices are starting to come down just a little bit. And again, that's largely due to the announcement of this reprint. But again, we don't know if the reprint is for every set and, how available those reprints will be. With how popular the game is, I'd be surprised if the reprints were enough to accommodate the demand, but I hope I'm wrong. So dropping down a little bit, but overall still kind of about where they were. Not big change on this one. On to our main set cards now. I've got kind of all of the big, like Whitebeard, Pirates cards pulled up here. And the reason for that is, like I said, Newgate is still seeing success in the current format. So the current format, OPO5, it sees success in OPO6, and it's already winning flagships in the EBO1 format. So these cards, like the Newgates, they're coming down in price, but I feel like they could end up going up in price because, one, the decks are still relevant in the current meta, and two, for OPO8 spoilers, again, we don't have any confirmation, but it seems like a pretty safe bet at this point that in set 8 we will be getting a blue-red Marco leader, and all of these cards I'm sure will work very nicely with that leader, especially Ace. This card has just been so good in any deck that can use this full effect, and with Marco being one of the Whitebeard Pirates, I'm sure he will have the Whitebeard Pirates typing, and as a result we'll be able to get some value out of this card. So I would keep your eye on the Marcos and Newgates, but above anything, the Ace, because whenever we get a new Whitebeard Pirates leader, I'm sure this card will be relevant. Just a very powerful card for board clear, as well as putting pressure on your opponent as well. For your film stuff, now I've got the Luffy and the Namis pulled up here. So we did just get the release of the starter deck 11 film Uta. Now most of the cards in that starter deck are reprints. I feel like there's only like 6 new cards maybe. You've got the Uta leader, there's an Uta character, and like 3 events maybe in the deck. Might only be 2 events. Point being, there aren't a lot of new cards in that deck, and unfortunately, and I know every time I bring this up, someone in the comments says, well, Nami already got a reprint. You know what? We'll get to that in a minute, but I don't really care. That does not count as a reprint in my mind, and I'll get to why in a minute. But Nami's about $20 right now, so unfortunately, if you want to play that Uta deck, you are going to need this card. You're going to need 4 of them, so that's $80 right there. And that just seems like such a blunder from Bandai, in my opinion, because the starter deck by itself, if it had this card, would be pretty viable. Like, the only thing that's really missing from the deck that it needs is this card right here. So it seems like just such a missed opportunity for them to have included it in this deck, because it would have been a great entry deck for newer players to get in the game. But, it is what it is. If you want to play the Uta, you're going to need a Nami. For the alternate art, it's $70 right now, and like we just saw with Luffy, also about $60-$70. I imagine that these alternate arts, as well as the SR Nami, will come down as we go into the OPO6 format, but if it does start seeing more success in EBO1, they may end up holding their value. However, I imagine they'll drop back down first, so if you're not really wanting to pick up the cards at their current price points, I would wait until kind of we get closer to OPO6, because in the OPO6 format, this deck kind of fell off. It stopped seeing success. It didn't see a huge amount of success even in the end of the OPO5 format, but with all of like the Gecko Morias and whatnot running around in OP06, deck wasn't as oppressive as it was in that end of the OP05 format. So I imagine they'll drop back down in price, but with that new support in EB01, maybe people will get hyped back up for this deck again, and we'll see these cards holding their value. Now, back to the Nami. For those of you who are wondering, like I said, there are people who show up in my comments every time I bring up this card and say, well, it already got a reprint. I don't know why you're saying this card needs a reprint. All right, here's where this card is getting a reprint. I'm not even going to say it got a reprint because this has not yet released yet. This is the One Piece card game premium card collection best selection. So this was a set that went up for pre-order in September. Pre-orders closed in October. Okay, so months ago. It doesn't ship till April. Okay, so here's why this doesn't even really count as a reprint for me. The whole point of a reprint is making the cards more accessible, specifically for newer players. This is not making the cards more accessible for newer players. On top of that, even if newer players were aware of this and pre-ordered it months ago, they still don't have those cards yet. Now that the Uta deck is even released, we still don't have the cards. The fact that this is coming doesn't help the situation at all whatsoever. They could have very easily just put in like a non-holo version of the SR Nami from OP02 and called it a day. Would have made the card much more accessible, but if they made it non-holo, then the, main set one would still hold some of its value because it's holo. So again, I don't care what anyone says down in the comments. Go down in the comments, tell me I'm wrong, but this does not help the situation. Yes, we're getting these eventually, but we've still got at least 2 months before we get these cards. And if it's anything like the other sets, it's probably going to be the end of April, so we're closer to 3 months, and by then, like, we're already halfway through the OP06 format, so this doesn't fix the problem. Yes, we're getting more copies of this card with different art, that's cool, but it doesn't help the situation of making the cards more accessible for new players. So that's it for my rant on that, but if you want to tell me I'm wrong down in the comments, by all means. Next up is Porcelino. Card is still expensive. This card still sees play in just about every black deck moving forward, so this is, if there's any card that can get a reprint, I hope it's this one. Would have been nice if Nami got one. Would be nice if like Katakuri got one, but above all else, just because of how many different black decks there are, I hope this one gets a reprint because almost all of them need this card, and it's just kind of a shame that it kind of locks a lot of newer players out of playing any of the black decks just because of how expensive this card is. So hopefully we get some form of reprint for this one, but for the time being, I don't see this one's price dropping down anytime soon. Same thing for the alternate art. The alternate art has actually gone up about 25% since we last looked. It's been sitting around $100, but now we are back up at $125, and they've been selling at $130. So Porcelino is just going up and up in price, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. That's it for OP02, so let's jump now into OP03. Not as much to talk about in OP03, but starting off with our leaders, Katakuri is still the most expensive leader. With everything else, I mean, Nami's also up there as well, but your other leaders have kind of started to calm down a little bit. We saw these 4 leaders in particular hitting about $100 at one point, but now they're calming back down, settling to around $50-$60, which is nice to see. Lucci, $73, and I suppose this one, depending on if we get some good CP support, could end up being relevant again. We are seeing that in OP07 we are getting a lot of new CP cards in black. The support's weird, lots of self-milling, but I haven't seen any great payoffs for it yet, so only thing I can really think of with all that CP support, and you know I am because I love my CP, is that maybe you can just mill the whole deck and start bottoming the cards you want to draw every turn with your effects, because I mean, with your Luchis, your Kakus, you know, whatever, most of those cards bottom 2 to 3 cards. So you're not going to deck out, so you could get to a point where you're just filtering your draws every turn. But other than that, I haven't seen any like solid payoffs for the deck yet, so we'll have to wait and see what other support we end up getting. Quick thing about Nami is Nami, while it's not been seeing any huge amounts of success, we did see it do pretty good at Nats, and I have seen it, you know, popping up and doing pretty well in the OPO6 EPO1 format. I think the Whiteout event, I believe it is, it's a 2 cost that gives +1 for the turn and also draws a card, and has done quite a bit for the deck in the upcoming format. So Nami, you know, you can still make it work. It's a very difficult deck to play, and you really got to know your matchups, but you can make it work. It can still win, and it's Nami, so this is always going to be a leader that has some pretty substantial value behind it. For your sealed product for OPO3, we're at $230 now. Again, we're seeing the sealed product prices drop down just a little bit, and I'm sure it's a result of those reprints that we're supposed to be getting. But again, I'm skeptical about the reprints. I'm excited that we're getting them, but I would be surprised if they are enough to accommodate the current demand, like I've been saying. So, you know, I would still probably hold on to your sealed OPO3 if you've got any, but if you're scared, you could also sell it. Again, I'm not an expert on the sealed product stuff. I am more interested in the singles, and kind of what's seeing success in the game right now is usually how I inform most of my market decisions. So with the sealed stuff, I really don't know a whole lot. Bringing up the Marco again, just because, like I said, during the OPO2 stuff, with all those Whitebeard Pirates cards, we should be getting a red-blue Marco leader in OPO8, and this is a Marco. It's red. It's a good card, and depending on what the leader does, this could also be a pretty powerful card in that deck as well. So I've got all the yellow cards here. Mainly we're just looking at, you know, these 9 here, your SRs, your alternate arts, and whatnot. So yellow still seeing a lot of success in the current format. It's going to see success in the OPO6 format, and it's looking like it's seeing even more success in the EPO1 format, which I'm sure probably is disappointing for a lot of us to hear, because I feel like for a large majority of players, we would agree that yellow is one of, if not the most unfun deck to play against in the game. But it is what it is. These cards are still good, and they're still seeing some success. But I want to kind of talk about each card in particular and where I think the price is going to go. So with your Katakuris, both the alternate art and the secret, I could actually see these ones starting to come down in price, because while NL is still good and this card still sees play in NL, I don't think NL is going to be as prevalent next set. It's still prevalent, and it'll still be prevalent in EVO1, but I don't think it's as prevalent as it has been in our current format. So I think this is going to drop off just a little bit. Queen becomes a little more viable, and I think Queen starts playing this again, but it's not going to be enough to make a significant difference in the price. And this card does not see play in the Katakuri decks that have been seeing success in the OPO6 or EBO1 format, from what I can tell. So really, it's just the NL deck that this card is being played in. So I think this one's actually going to drop down in price a little bit. So unless you're really chomping at the bit to play NL today, I would probably stay away from this card right now. We know we've got reprints coming, and it's not seeing as much play. So I would kind of hold off for now and just see where things develop. For Pudding, she's your searcher. this one's still gonna probably continue to go up in price. For OPO8, we are allegedly also getting a purple yellow Big Mom Pirates type leader, so I'm sure alongside that we'll be getting some more Big Mom Pirates type characters that will be searchable off of this card. And honestly, it probably doesn't even matter what the effect on the leader is, because it'll probably be pretty good, just because now you can ramp into your 10 cost Big Mom. So something to keep in mind there. This one's probably just going to keep going up in price, but we do have to keep in mind of the reprints as well, so we may see it drop down in price first. Now for Cracker, this is another one I think is going to go down in price. It's been seeing some play and success in the current format. I think it's kind of, initially we were seeing a lot of the NL list were running this one, but as we kind of developed, it got further into the format, we stopped seeing it played in NL. Still sees play in Katakuri, but this one kind of falls off a bit. We get some new cards in OPO6, particularly in Okiku, and while that card doesn't have counter, it has kind of replaced this card, I think, as the card is just overall a little bit better vanilla stat line and a very powerful on KO effect. So I think this one's going to drop down in price too. Same thing with your regular art. Not seeing as much play. I've been looking at, there's a lot of Katakuri decks that are doing well in the very early EBO1 format, and this card has not been present in any of them, so wouldn't be surprised if we see this one start to drop down a little bit again. We're already seeing the regular SRs dropping down in price. I think it's peaked around 15, and currently we're at about $12 with shipping, so it is dropping down in price, so I can see it dropping down a little bit more as well. For your Parasparrows, I could see this one going up. Very good card, nice on play effect, has the trigger to play itself, and this one has been a 4 of in all of the Katakuri decks that have been doing well in the OPO6 as well as the EBO1 format. I think the Big Mom Pirates got just a little bit better with EBO1 in general, as they got a new very powerful 2k counter, which can prevent your opponent from starving you in a way, as well as just being a searchable 2k counter. And then for your Big Moms, I could also see these ones going up as well, with Katakuri kind of making what looks to be a resurgence in EBO1. The regular SR in particular, I could see going up in price. In OPO6, we do get the SP art for Big Mom, so a lot of people hate the art for this one, so I would imagine this one's probably going to stay about where it is, but I could see the EBO1 SP being rather expensive. And then of course we do have to keep in mind we are allegedly getting that black or purple yellow Big Mom Pirates type leader, and if we were able to ramp into this card, I'm sure it's going to be pretty good. That's kind of it for yellow stuff. Just kind of wanted to share my thoughts on all of this, as all of these cards are still fairly relevant, and just wanted to share where I think they're all going to go from here. Last two cards are going to be two of our wanted cards. Luffy is just continuing to climb and climb and climb, and to be honest, it makes sense. It's a very collectible card. It's Luffy. All your Luffy cards are always just a little bit more expensive. Well, all your Luffy alternate arts are just a little bit more expensive just because it's Luffy, and it's Luffy wanted poster, so not surprised to see this one is just continuing to climb in price. Definitely glad I picked mine up when it was about half of its current price now. We could see it come down with those reprints, but I imagine this one is more or less going to hold its value and continue to climb as time goes on. Kaido, on the other hand, is dropping back down in price. Makes sense. We're getting towards the end of our OPO5 format. Our biggest tournament that most of us were looking forward to has been concluded at this point, so there aren't a lot of events left for the OPO5 format, and going into OPO6, purple falls off completely again. Not a lot of purple seeing success in the OPO6 format. Purple Luffy just isn't able to keep up anymore, And as a result of that, we're going to start seeing some of those high-end purple cards start to drop down in price until they become relevant again. Now, it might be worth mentioning, probably not, but in EBO1 we do get some Water 7 support for the Iceberg leader, and in your first week of the EBO1 format, Iceberg did win a flagship. Now, keep in mind, flagships are usually like 20 to 30 people, I think, so for us that's kind of like a local, but at flagships in Asia they are giving out kind of like our championship cards. I think the Borsalinos and Kuzans were given out at flagships, so kind of scuffed for the East, but hey, good on someone for doing well with Iceberg and winning some of those championship cards. They did have 3 copies of this Kaido in their deck, so just thought I'd bring that up. OPO4 leaders, I think the leaders for OPO4 have really just been the most stable of any set. Not a lot of change here. Croc is still up a little bit from where it was, but not a lot. It's come back down now. Sealed product, $162 right now, so this one is still up, but it is coming back down now that we're getting those reprints at some point. For main set cards, we've got your SR Doflamingo, and as I've been saying, green gets a lot better in the upcoming sets, and this is a card that's been seeing a lot of play in those green decks, particularly Perona and Yamato. We've been seeing this deck played in. Just a very powerful top-end card that can, you know, save you some time and win you the game. I think one of kind of green's weaknesses is that they are a little bit slower, and this is one of those cards that can kind of compensate for being a little bit slower by preventing your opponent's characters from refreshing during the refresh phase. So just keeps your opponent's guys rested. It's a very powerful card, and probably will continue to see play in green decks moving forward, as just it is currently the best boss monster for green, probably. I mean, 8-cost Kid is also very good, but I mean, combine those 2 cards together and you've got a pretty devastating combination of effects. Same thing with the alternate art, we're up $40. We saw this kind of jump up in price after the first Fortress Yamato deck did pretty well over in Asia, and it's held its value since, as it has been popping up in other decks, like we mentioned, Perona being one of them. So probably gonna continue to hold its current price point, but we'll have to see where things develop. We're still very early in the EB01 format to see if there are any interesting developments there. Missile Sunday is up a little bit. This one's kind of been going up and down and up, but those purple Luffy decks that have been running the Missile Sunday have been doing fairly well. We've actually seen quite a lot of Luffy winning some of these bigger events recently. The online Treasure Cup, which happened yesterday, I believe Chris Sock did win with Luffy. I don't remember if he was running the Missile Sunday or not. I think maybe he was, but kind of the whole idea behind this is that traditionally Luffy wants to go first and start playing things like Poly and stuff when you can get a lot of value out of them. But the draw behind the Missile Sunday is that if you go second, you can play it on turn 2, and that essentially means that you can play Kaido on turn 3, and Kaido just isn't a card that was meant to be played on turn 3, so it is a pretty oppressive for your opponent when you do get that combo off. So pretty cool combo. I definitely still want to try it out. May see a gameplay video coming here at some point where I'm trying that one out, as it just sounds like a lot of fun to me. But now we've got Sabo, still an $8 SR, and with the announcement of reprints it could come down, but this is one that sees play again in like almost every black deck moving forward, with the exception of actually Sakazuki. This card has kind of been dropped from most of the Sakazuki decks going into OPO6, just because you had to cut some card to make room for your 8-cost Gecko Moria. and this is one of those cards that just didn't make the cut anymore. It's a 5 cost, so it doesn't synergize with the Gecko Moria, so ended up being one of the cards that got cut from most lists. You still can run it at 1 or 2, but most lists have cut this card in the OP06 format, at least the decks that are seeing a lot of success from what I can tell. But if you're playing Corona or Black Luffy, Moria, all of those run 4 of. So if you plan on running any of those decks, you're definitely gonna want to have your copies of Sabo. Alternate art, been pretty stable. It is starting to come down a little bit though, so I would consider picking this one up if you don't have it, because I can see it going back up again just because of the fact that it sees play in 3 of the more popular decks in the OP06 format. So just something to keep in mind. I wouldn't be surprised if this one jumps up again a little bit more as we get closer to our OP06 releasing here in the West. For Capone is on a little bit of a dip, which means it might be a good time to pick this one up, because kind of like we talked about with Otama and Izo, this is probably your best 2K for yellow. Just 2K counter and an excellent trigger effect. I don't know what else to say about this card. It's going to be played in just about every yellow deck for as long as the game's alive, probably. I don't know. I'm sure eventually we'll get something better, but for the time being, this is a 2K counter that also has a trigger that just says I win the game sometimes, so that's pretty good. And lastly, we've got our Yamatos. NL still seeing play, still seeing success, but like I said, it's not probably going to be as prevalent, so I think these ones might go. I think the alt in particular might go down a little bit. I think the SR is still a very reasonable price, and it'll probably hold its current price point until we see another leader or deck come about that utilizes the Yamato and sees high level success. But for right now, I'd say, you know, if you need some Yamatos, this is probably a fine price to buy them at. You know, the alternate art, waifu tax and all that, but I could see this one coming down as we are getting the reprints, and I don't think NL is going to be seeing as much success in OP06. Yet to be determined if the Sky Island support from EB01 is enough to push NL back to the top, so definitely something to keep in mind there. But that is it for OP04, so let's jump now into OP05. Got a lot of stuff in OP05. Leaders, all relatively the same, your big 3 being about $100. Sakazuki leading at 120, makes sense, all very good leaders. And while Luffy does fall off, he's still Luffy, so I don't imagine the price on this one is going to fluctuate all that much even as we get into OP06. Sealed product is back down. It's still $240, and that's still ridiculous for a set that, you know, is the most recent set in the game, but it is what it is. It is coming down. We are getting reprints. I'm sure we're getting reprints of this set. We have to. So sealed prices on this one are dropping down just a little bit. We did see them peak at about 300, so glad to see they're at least coming down, but I would still strongly encourage you not to buy sealed product for OP05 at this price point. For our SPs, Nami, of course, still leading the pack here at $260. It's Nami. Nami kind of just everywhere. It seems like we're always getting new Namis. At Nats, we also got a kind of leak that we're getting a treasure rare Nami in OP06, which is a card that has not been released anywhere. There have been very mixed opinions about the art on that card, and you know, what I'll say is overall the card looks good. I understand why some people don't really like the way it looks, but I would say don't bash on him too much, because I'm sure the artist put a lot of work into that card, and it's not that the card looks bad, it's just that it doesn't look like how a lot of us think Nami looks. You know, when we look at that card, it's not like, oh yeah, that's Nami. Maybe I'll throw a picture up on the screen, but you know, be kind to the artist and all that. No reason to throw a fit over it, but yeah, Nami just is like the Charizard of One Piece, it seems. Like, the cards are always expensive and we just keep getting more. Why not give us some reprints of some other cards, you know? We got Yamato and Uta at about 130, NL 120, and then your Kaido and your Lucci being the cheapest of the two, or the 6, right around $60. So I feel like not a lot's changed for the SPs, but maybe I'm wrong. It's been a minute. I haven't been keeping a close eye on these ones, as I have thankfully already gotten my set. But jumping in, we've got Baby 5. Baby 5 is another one. While the Don Quixote package has not seen a lot of success on its own, in the OPO6 format, we did start to see lots of lists kind of running hybrid packages of like the Don Quixote and Supernovas together. So you're running both Baby 5 and your Bonnie Searcher together to search out combination of powerful Supernovas as well as Don Quixote pirate cards. This card has been seeing a lot of play in OPO6, and I would imagine it will see a lot of play in our OPO6 format as well. Also got the waifu text, of course. It is starting to come back down in price though, so if this is a card you are considering picking up, might want to keep your eye on it, as it might get just a little bit lower in price and it could be worth picking up. Personally, I already picked up my copies of this card, so I haven't been keeping a super close eye on it. But if you want to play any green decks and you want to bling your decks out, or even if you're just wanting to pick up Baby 5 to have in your collection, it is coming down, so I would keep your eye on this one. It might be a good opportunity to buy before it goes back up in price once OPO6 releases here in the West. Gear 5 Luffy alternate art is at $65 now. Way down from where it was. I think at its peak we saw about $100 on this card. So back down to 60, great to see. You know, it's still Luffy, very sought after card. I feel like Gear 5 Luffy tax is also a thing. Just these Luffy's, particularly the Gear 5 Luffy cards, are rather expensive. But glad to see this one coming down. We are getting a reprint, so makes sense to me. Card doesn't see a lot of play, so is more of a collector card too. But great art, love this card. But glad to see that it's at a more reasonable price point. I think 65 is completely fair for an alternate art secret rare of Monkey D. Luffy. Alright, now I want to talk about some purple stuff, okay? So first up, we've got Eustace Captain Kidd. Got both the alternate art and the regular SR pulled up. We're starting to see these cards go on a decline, as we saw with the Wanted Kaido as well. And I would imagine that is due to the fact that, I mean, we are getting reprints, but also due to the fact that Purple Luffy is not a relevant deck in the OPO6 format, as I mentioned with Kaido. This card doesn't see really any play to speak of, just because Purple doesn't see any play in the OPO6 format. However, what I want to say about the Kid is that it looks like the red-purple law deck actually might have some legs in the EBO1 format. Some new cards and support seem like they're helping out that deck quite a lot. And this is, of course, still going to be a 4 of in your red-purple law deck. Just having great stat line, counter, and the ability to give you back a Dawn when you use a Dawn minus. And with that red-purple law, you really want to be using your leader effect every single turn. So having this effect at your disposal is really, really nice. Just making it a little more efficient to use your leader effect each and every turn. So while the SR is going down, if you don't have them, this is just a card with such a good effect that I would say you should have 4 copies in your collection, because if and when Purple gets the support to make it relevant again, I would be shocked if this is not a card that is at least somewhat relevant, but we'll just have to wait and see. Same thing with the alternate art, it's coming down. Personally, I still need to pick up one more copy of this one for my collection. So plan on doing that pretty soon as prices are getting a little lower. Now, while we are talking about Red Purple Law and the deck seeing more success, unfortunately, as cool as this card looks, this card is not seeing play in the Red Purple Law decks that I've been looking at. Like I said, EBO1's very new, but I've seen several Red Purple Law decks that have been doing well, either winning or topping flagships. Like I said, they're not super big events, but over in Asia, there are like some of the more premier events where you can get those kind of high-end prized cards. And this card has not been included in the Red Purple Law decks, unfortunately, so this card's still not seeing really any play or success to speak of, but it is Law. It's a good looking alt, so I'm sure it'll hold some value, but definitely not a card you need to have if you want to play Red Purple Law. I might still pick up a copy or two just to have them, but honestly, if you've got a bunch of this card running around, I might just sell them because I don't see this card being relevant anytime soon. Now, the Zoro, on the other hand, is seeing play in the Red Purple Law deck, so this is an alt that we could see going back up in price again. It's Zoro, so for that reason alone, it's going to hold some value, and if this card starts seeing play and success, I'm sure it will go up just a little bit more. Zoro being a fan favorite character and all that. Also just has a very nice effect to ramp you a Dawn back. So again, early play, you can play this turn 2 going first with Red Purple Law, and it's just giving you more Dawn advantage, which is really what the Red Purple Law deck is all about, as you are going to be using that Dawn minus effect as often as you can. Next up is Rebecca. Got both your regular and alternate art pulled up again. And I know we talk about this card every week, but this card still sees a lot of play. A lot of people would argue that this is probably one of the most ridiculously good cards in the game, being a blocker with counter that also, recurs a card from the trash and then can play something for free. So very, very powerful. I feel like the price on this one for the SR is going to be pretty stable, assuming we get some half decent reprints for OPO5. It still sees a lot of play in OPO6, and I'm sure it will in EBO1 as well. It's just a very powerful card. But the main reason I'm bringing this up is just because I feel like at some point this Lucci is just going to start climbing up in price again, because this is also a card that sees play in most of your black decks right now. It's not waifu tax, but we are also getting a new CP Lucci leader, so I'm sure this card will be relevant in that deck if the deck sees success. And just alongside all the other black decks that are doing well, I feel like this is a card that isn't going to stay $3 forever. Now, for the alternate art on Rebecca, and I know I said this before, it is down right now. So if you don't have the alternate art for Rebecca and you want to pick it up, now is probably a good time to do it, because I can't see it continuing to go down. I'm sure it will go back up again. But the big thing to keep in mind with this one is that in OPO6, we do get the SP art for this one. And I think the art looks a little better. It's much more colorful, but you also got like the little Totenadas on there, which is pretty cute. So personally, I like the SP art from OPO6 a little better. So if you're really wanting to bling your deck out, you're going to want to pick up those. But this one is still an alternate art of a very powerful card, waifu tax. So I think this is a good price to pick it up at, honestly. I think we saw not so long ago, it was just slightly up $70. So you got $5 shipping on this one, but we're under $60 even with shipping. So pretty considerable drop in price for this one. I guess there aren't a ton of cheaper listings and they aren't verified sellers, but hey, you got some cheaper listings. Could be a good time to pick this one up before they go back up in price again. This card is going to continue to see play in all your black decks. It's just a very good card. We already talked about the Lucci. The alternate art is also down. Could be a good time to pick this one up, as it does see play in Moria, still sees play in Lucci. Doesn't see play in Perona, but your big two, I would say Sakazuki and Moria. have been like the top 2 decks for the OPO6 format in the East, and I'm sure they will be over here in the West as well, as long as we don't find out some niche little deck that has pretty good matchups into the 2 of them. I'm sure there'll be 2 of the most represented decks over here as well. So if you want your Luchis, I'd say probably pick them up now, because they're probably just getting more expensive, especially with more CP hype and support in the horizon for OPO7. Mancherry, now I would honestly say sell your copies of Mancherry now, because this card doesn't see any play in OPO6. I have not seen a single deck in OPO6 that runs this card anymore, and I'm guessing that's probably just because you have Moria now. This is one of those cards that just doesn't make the cut anymore. Moria is such a dumb good card that you have to play it in your black decks, and because of that, there's just not room for this card. Like, it's a good card. You know, the combo of getting back your Rebecca is cool and all, but now you can basically just play Moria and have a 9k body and do kind of the same thing. So this card has not been seeing any play at all after OPO5. So I don't think you need this card anymore. I think it's probably going to come back down in price, especially with reprints. It's only $17, but I would still probably say you should sell this card now, because it's not going to be relevant in the upcoming formats. So sell now, maybe buy back if things get a little bit cheaper. And the last card here is Gadatsu. Been bringing up this one a lot, but now that we've got some results from EBO1, this card is still a 4 of in every yellow deck. Like I said, I've been seeing a lot, like Katakuri's been doing very well in the early EBO1. It's only been a week, but I've seen probably 5 or 6 Katakuri decks that have won flagships. All of them are running 4 copies of Gadatsu. Gadatsu, just a very, very good card, and one you're going to want to have for your yellow decks. So, of course, you've got the regular rare version of this card if you're looking to be cheap, but if you need this card for your collection, or if you're wanting to bling out your deck, this is a card you're going to want to have. I don't know how much more expensive this one will get. I feel like for your alternate art rares, generally they don't get much more expensive than $30-$40, but we'll have to wait and see with this one. I could definitely see this one getting more expensive as we get closer to the release of OPO6 and EBO1. But that is it for OPO5. Let's talk about our promos. I think we're making fairly good time on this one, just about an hour into the video now, already through our first 5 sets. We've got our Dawn cards, not a lot of change here. One thing to keep in mind though is that treasure cups are happening for the rest of the month, and we are getting, I can't remember which Dawn pack. I want to say it's the one with Robin, Luffy, Sanji, Brook, and Usopp, but we should be getting more of those as participation for the treasure cups. So we might see the prices on those ones drop down a little bit, but we'll have to wait and see. I think pricing is for the first one that happened this weekend is supposed to be getting shipped out tomorrow. So in the next week or so, we could see prices on some of these Dawns start to drop down a little bit. We've also got the championship Dawn from Nats. Looks very nice. Got this stamp, and the card is foiled as well, so it looks quite a bit better than the initial one, which did not have foiling on it, which is very cool to see. Up next, I've got up your Uta battle cards pulled up. Now, for those who aren't aware, Bandai did a Bandai thing and they messed up. Who's surprised? Certainly not I, but essentially for participating in these Uta battles, you were supposed to get a pack which contained all 8 of these cards for participating. Every participant was supposed to get a pack with all 8 of these cards. However, that is not what got shipped to the LGSs. What was instead shipped was a pack with your 1 winner card and 1 of each of these 8 cards. So Bandai has recognized that this was a mistake, and so what they have said is going to happen, we'll have to wait and actually see if it does, is that in March they will be sending out kits that have packs of these cards to make up for the fact that they weren't in the initial kits. I'm not sure how LGSs are going to handle this. For my LGS, and I kind of run all the events at most of my LGSs, but how they're handling it is they've saved the roster, and so when these packs come in, you'll just go in and confirm that you are on that roster, and then you will get your pack because you've already participated in the event. So hopefully those get shipped out and everyone gets the card they're supposed to get. But right now they're rather expensive because every kit only had 1 of these cards. I was fortunate. I've only been to 1 UTA event, but I did end up winning that event. And so I got the winner card, and they gave me the pack with the 8 cards in it as well for winning. So that was super cool. May just end up selling them though, because I don't think I'm going to be playing these cards. And I mean, what? They're like at least $20 a piece on them. Definitely going to keep the Luffy. I like my Luffy winners, so be holding on to that one for sure. But your Route to Battle cards are pretty expensive right now. I would say absolutely under no circumstances should you be buying these cards right now, as come March they should come down in price when those participation packs are actually being handed out and available. Curious to see where this Luffy ends up though. Most of these winter Luffys end up being rather expensive, as we've seen with the store championship as well as the first anniversary event Luffy as well. I would agree with most people that this one does not look anywhere near as good as those 2, but I still think it's a pretty cool looking card and I'm happy to have it in my collection. Next, we've got this Luffy. It is another variant of the 1012 Vanilla. This is the one you got just for showing up to the Bandai Card Fest in LA. So even if you were a spectator, you got this card. So there are lots of these cards out there, so I'm curious to see where the price lands. But we do see it selling pretty consistently at this $100 price point. So, you know, if you went to Nats and you got this card and it's not something you're looking to keep, hey, it's like you got $100 just for showing up, and that's pretty cool. Next up is our regional cards, and I don't know, like, I would not really buy any of these regional cards, to be honest with you. Maybe some of the participant ones if you like the art and want to play it in a deck. But it's kind of interesting because I don't know what happened recently, but like, look at the market price on all of these finalist cards. I didn't look at their current listings. Like Croc 90, market's 35. Sanji's 75, market's 32. Spandam's 100, market's 32. I actually I think it was the offline regional finalist Spandam. I don't even see that one on here anymore. But I bought 3 of those for like $30 a piece right before they jumped up in price. If I can even find it. Okay, they're out of, no, that's the winter one. I don't see them on here. But anyways, I guess now I'm gonna look. I bought some of the Spandam before they went up in price. So the offline regional fight, it's at 74. So they're selling at about 60. So I guess maybe I'll just sell them now. But I don't know. Maybe I'll keep them. I like my CP stuff. But point being, I'm not sure why the regional cards have kind of popped off recently. I mean, I guess there aren't a lot of them out there, so it kind of makes sense that they're a bit expensive, but I don't know. I wouldn't buy these cards. They're too expensive. But hey, you do you. Your laws are rather expensive right now because of Uta. Some people play this in the Uta deck. Are they selling? Yes, they are selling. So if you have some participant laws, could be a good time to sell those. For your event pack stuff, we've also got your championship event pack. These are the celebration pack cards. Suru obviously being very expensive. You can see here in the picture now what I was talking about last time with like the borderless, so it looks a lot better. So your championship stamped ones are pretty expensive, but your non-stamped ones have all kind of come down in price for the most part. I mean, nothing's all that expensive now, which is good to see. Even Jimbei, you've got $30 on Jimbei now. Do keep in mind with Jimbei though that if you were able to pre-order the Bandai Card Fest collection, there's Jimbei in that, and it's actually textured as well. We kind of got a sneak peek of what they look like at Nats, and they look super good. So if you pre-ordered that and don't plan on playing these anytime soon, I'd still say avoid it, as you'll be getting that card at some point. Unfortunately, it takes a long time for those pre-orders to actually ship, but still nice that we had the opportunity to pre-order those. Winter cards have, a lot of them more or less come down. Your Bonnies, your Tashigis, mostly coming down, and I would say that is largely a result of the fact that we now have the celebration pack variants. I still need one more Bonnie. If you have a Bonnie and you're in my Discord, hit me up. I want one more Bonnie. I think this is one of the best looking foiled cards, period. I just really like the art on this card. KFC Bonnie, just a good looking card. Nami being your most expensive though. Of course, it's got the Nami tax, but outside of kind of your big three here, everything else is like, I would say, fairly reasonable. They were pretty outrageously priced initially, but now that, you know, Nats is included and everyone's opened their packs, everything is, I would say, it's pretty fair. Bonnie, Nami, still expensive. And with a Tashigi, the other thing I'll say is Tashigi doesn't see play next set. And I'm sure that shocks a lot of you, but the reason is because you get a Tashigi searcher, and Tashigi can't search Tashigi. So Tashigi gets replaced with Virgo as your 2k counter next set, as it is a Navy searchable card by Branu and Tashigi, and it can still be grabbed back off of Rebecca. So it is the most consistent option for a 2k counter following the release of OP06. Tashigi is still a good option, but it's just less consistent because it is not searchable off of the Tashigi searcher, and most of those blue-black Sakazuki decks are running 4 of both searcher just to be as consistent as possible. Additionally, this is another one of those cards that is in that Bandai Card Fest binder that you were able to pre-order, but I believe is already sold out. So again, that one's textured, looks better than this one, so if you really want this card, I would still just wait because that one looks better. Judge cards, nothing serious to speak of here. Most of your judge cards have dropped down in price pretty significantly. None of them are all that expensive. Even your queen, now that purple is kind of going to be falling out of favor pretty soon, dropping down in price. And your sealed battle cards are still fairly expensive, but I do think we're like getting more of these. I heard, I'll have to fact check that, but I heard that we're getting more of these sealed battle events. So definitely going to be great to see if we end up getting more of those for sure. All right. And then pre-release stuff, film stuff is up because Film Uta. Other than that, not a lot to say. Opia 3, I need another air door, but other than that, not a lot going on here. Tempest Sky Slicer is sold out now, which is interesting. One sold at $17 about a month ago. Huh, I guess I didn't notice that until now. That's weird. Opio 4 sets very mid, not a lot of good cards. There does seem to be some value in these anniversary cards though. This Nico Robin in particular has been selling at like $90, which is absurd. I have one of this card somewhere, but I lost it. So I think I'm gonna have to try and find that now. So that's it for pre-release. So we're going to end the video with our starter deck cards. Kaido. Stuff is dropping down. Purple's going to be more or less irrelevant. OP06. Sakazuki. Still got some bangers with Hina and Great Eruption. Still see a lot of play. El Melpo also starts seeing play, but usually only is like a 1 or a 2 of from what I can tell. Starter deck Big Mom. Still getting expensive. Buy your Big Moms now because every Katakuri deck that I've seen doing well, and like I said, there have been a lot in early Evo 1. All of them are running 4 Big Moms. You're going to want to have your Big Moms if you plan on playing yellow into EBO 1. And last thing I want to mention is that Starter Deck 8 and Starter Deck 9 are finally starting to go up in price. I would imagine this is just because the decks are kind of not very available anymore, not because any given card in either of these decks is all that relevant right now, but hey, they're going up in price, so just something to keep in mind there. But that's going to wrap things up for today's Market Watch video. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please do consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel if you want to see more content like this in the future. I try and get up a Market Watch video just about every weekend and get some gameplay videos uploaded in between during the weekdays. So if that sounds fun to you, consider subscribing to the channel, supporting what we do here. But with that, I think that's going to wrap things up. Pretty slow week, all things considered. Glad to see things starting to drop down in price. But what I'm really most excited for is to see how the EBO 1 format develops over in Asia. So as we start getting more results from those events, I'm sure we'll start seeing some of the card prices reflected to match what those results are showing. So, but with that, thank you so much again for watching, but I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.